Hi guys, nice to meet you if you're new here, nice to see you if you're not new here. How's it going? I'm Lara. I've been seeing some people do this video of their spring TBR, so I thought, why not? I thought I would tell you what I want to read this spring, and I also have a couple of books that I think you should read this spring. So the way that I picked books for my spring TBR, I have quite a few books that I have on my physical TBR. I have a couple of books that are new releases, and then I have a couple of books that I just don't currently own that I would love to get to. This gives me a month and a half really, because in here, I think summer starts June 1st. Does it? No. As soon as June hits, it's summer. So I have, today is April 13th already, April 13th already. So I guess I have a month and a half to read these if I choose to actually read them, because we all know a TBR just means that they're on my radar, doesn't mean I'm going to get to them. I have books that have been on my TBR that I've just never touched before. So anyways, let's get into my spring TBR. I think we should go through the books that I just don't currently own yet, and then we'll go to the books that I do own. Most of these are not books that are new releases. Most of them are books that I just want, because I already did like a new releases video at the beginning of the year, and a lot of those books are still like on my radar, and a lot of them come out this month or next month. Not a lot. A couple of them come out this month or next month. So like I already know that I want to read them, and I already did like new releases. So I didn't want to talk about the same books, although there might be like one or two that's on this. The first book slash series that I have on my spring TBR is something that I want to get to spring summertime, but I put it on here, is the rest of the Addicted Calloway Sister series. I read the first 3 books in the Addicted series, and then that's when you move on to the Calloway Sisters. I read the first 3 Addicted, and then I started the first Calloway book, which I can't think of what it is. Is it Kiss the Sky? I don't know if that sounds correct. It is Kiss the Sky. I started Kiss the Sky, and then I just never continued it. I got maybe like 20 or so pages into it, and I just put it down because I wasn't in the mood for it at that moment, and that was sometime last year. So I would like to continue that series. So far I've really enjoyed it. The Addicted Calloway Sister series is a found family story about some sisters and then these other people. In the first 3 books, you're following Lily and Lo. Lily is one of the Calloway sisters, and then Lo is her best friend. 2 best friends live together, and they're like fake dating. They pretend like they're dating because they each have an addiction. They're using the shield of each other to show that they're not actually addicted. And so you're following them for the first 3 books, but also they have like the Calloway sisters, and there's a couple of other side characters. I just want to continue that series, not necessarily read the whole series in the springtime, but at least continue it. Then I have a newer release that came out not too long ago, which is Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I read Ready or Not by Cara Bastone a couple of months ago, and I enjoyed it. It was a good read. At first when I read it, I was like, oh, we're not like focused on the romance. I don't know how I feel about that. But this is really focused on characters, like literary fiction, and like the character themselves. Promise Me Sunshine is about our female main character who loses her best friend, and then our male main character is a grumpy man who swears that he can help the female main character live again. I've seen a really good reviews of this book. Cover itself makes me want to read it. I feel like it might be an emotional book, and I feel like this is a good time to read an emotional book because the sun's out and we're not sad right now. So another book of continuing a series is Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. Wild and Wrangled comes out really soon. I can't remember, but really soon. Lost and Lassoed are characters that I have been watching throughout the first 2 books that I really want a book on. I want to know what's going on in their heads because we see a lot of them, and I need to know what's going on inside their heads. I need to know what's going on because it's giving like hate to love, and I can't wait. I think that's going to be my favorite one. This next book I want to read like as soon as possible. I saw this author promoting her book on Instagram. The artist did amazing at showcasing like these characters, and the author did such a great job at promoting her own book. It made me really want to read it, which is Nightshade by Autumn Woods. I have no clue what it's about. I know the female main character's name, and it's Ophelia, which is just such a pretty name. This is on my spring TBR, but this is honestly on my like radar of next book that I want to read. Then I had This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. I read Before I Let Go last year or the year before that. I don't remember, but I really enjoyed that book. Her books are like romance books, but such emotional romance books the way that she writes a character. I love when a author writes a character or writes a book that makes a story feel so real. And I feel like Kennedy Ryan does that. She makes me feel like these characters are real. Their story is very real. In the first book, we have three best friends. In the first book, you're following a couple who was married, but then they got divorced. Like a second chance, but like so raw, so emotional. And then the next two books in this series, in the Skyland series, are following each of her best friends. The last book that I don't own that I have on my spring TBR is The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I don't know what this book is about, you guys. I have no clue what this book is about. But I really enjoyed Magnolia Parks as a series. Magnolia and Daisy Hates, love them. These are characters that also feel very real to me. All of them. They all live in London. You can't convince me that they're just made up characters. I'm so sorry. You can't convince me. I'm delusional. These are real characters. But The Conditions of Will, I know is like a standalone. I do know that it's about a girl who dislikes most of her family. She doesn't get along with them. And she has to go back to the States because she currently lives in London. She has to go back to the States because her father passed. That's all I've got. Now moving on to books that I physically own that I would love to get to. I'm realizing most of them are romance books, but I feel like springtime just gives me romance vibes, just like fall and wintertime give me fantasy and like thriller vibes. Spring and summer are romance. I have Heartstopper Volume 3. I'm on Volume 3. And these are just such fun, easy reads. This is about Nick and Charlie. It's a graphic novel, and I really enjoy reading about these two characters. I enjoy the story of the both of them. It's so cute. I love the graphic novel, and it's like a palate cleanser that takes you no time to read at all. And it's great. Like a palate cleanser, but also not, because it can be a bit of emotional. This one, I have not seen one single bad review. They're all amazing. And it's a First Time Caller by B.K. Morrison. This book has gotten such good reviews on it. It makes me want to pick it up as soon as I can. I know that it's like a radio host who has like a dating advice show, and our female main character has a daughter that calls in trying to help her mom out. So like that in itself is cute. Excited to see the radio aspect of it, the radio show aspect. I'm excited to see that, but I've heard such like raving reviews that I'm so excited to pick this up. Another book that also just came out not that long ago is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. I read Out on a Limb by this author and I really enjoyed it, and this is following their best friends. In Out on a Limb, the best friends show up and they're married, and in this book they are trying to spark their marriage back to life. They were high school sweethearts, and now Sarah wonders like who she is without her partner. I really enjoyed Hannah Bonham Young's writing. A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I read the two other books by Ashley Poston and I really enjoyed them. This book is following our female main character whose car unexpectedly breaks down and she ends up in this small town. And this small town is not just a small town, it is a town of her favorite romance novel. I've been holding back on reading this and I don't know why. I've had it since it came out and I haven't picked it up. I just bought this book not that long ago. And The Spine is What's Giving Spring. Funny story by Emily Henry. Spine is literally lemons. These two characters are fake dating to get back at their exes because their exes ended up together. Fake dating to get back at your exes because they ended up together. And then what's gonna happen for their character growth, because Emily Henry always has some kind of like character growth. When I was looking for books that I wanted to read this spring, I was looking mainly at my romance books. Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. Set over the course of a school year, this is a story of two star-crossed 16-year-olds, smart enough to know that first love almost never lasts, but brave and desperate enough to try. When I was looking at books on my shelves, this one just really popped out to me for a book that I really want to read in spring. This book I've talked about a couple of times. I've added it to my TBR a couple of times, and I feel like it gives the cover itself gives spring vibes, but what it's about also gives spring vibes. This is my spring TBR, so of course I picked these for that reason. But Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I've, like I said, talked about this book before, but my best friend just read this not too long ago and she really enjoyed it. Following Emily Wilde, who is a professor and she wants to learn more about fairies. She goes on this journey to write this encyclopedia, and of course her rival is there and he's handsome and charming, and she is not a people person. Also, something about the way that these books look like journals, you can't tell. They look like journals. Something about that I love. This next one is on my list of read immediately, but I have too many books on my list to read immediately, so we'll see when I get to it. It is Our Infinite Fates by Laura Steven. I saw this one on TikTok again, but this one was being promoted by the author before it came out. This is about Evelyn, our female main character, who can remember every single life that she has lived. She's been killed before her 18th birthday by Arden, a supernatural being that is attached to her soul. They've loved each other in 1,000 lifetimes. They've killed each other in every one. So I'm just interested to know like the different lifetimes. This also came out last month, so I really don't hear many people talking about it. I've been hearing people wanting to read it. This is one that I can't wait to read. The last book on my spring TBR that I have, I didn't realize how many books I actually put on my spring TBR, so like not all of these are gonna get read, unfortunately. The last book that I have on my spring TBR, The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I've been hearing so much about this book. So many good things about this book. I really honestly don't know too much about it other than it's like two ice skaters. Two ice skaters who have a documentary that comes out about them or about the female main character. I don't know if it's both or if it's just her, but there's a documentary that comes out and she wants to tell her own story, but she didn't want to tell it in the documentary. So she comes out of her like hiatus. I have no clue. What intrigues me about this story is like the way that it's told. There's regular chapters and then there's people. Interview style, I guess. That's what intrigues me about this book, but I've just heard so many good things about it that this is another one that I need to pick up soon. To the world they were a scandal, to each other an obsession, and I just need to know. I need to know. Those are all the books that I want to read this spring. I'm going to quickly give you some ideas for you to put on your own spring TBR of some books that I really enjoyed that I think are good spring books. We're gonna like rapid fire them. I'm not gonna talk too much about them because I have probably talked about these in other videos before, if you want to go watch those. Firstly, I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This was such a page-turner book. The series is a page-turner. This book specifically was my favorite of the series. I absolutely loved it so much. The little things that she put in here, it's like the story, but every now and then there's something that Pip has put together, like if Pip took a picture of something or if Pip is like writing something up or if there's like a diary entry or something, it's in the book, and I love those things in a book. I love them so much. I love Pip as a character. I highly recommend this to anybody any time of the year, but I feel like it's a good book to read right now. Then I have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This cover is from Lilac Library. It's just a dust jacket. Anyways, this is Once Upon a Broken Heart. I recommend anything by Stephanie Garber, but Once Upon a Broken Heart is on here because it was just like a fairy tale. I'm reading Caraval right now, and technically you're supposed to read Caraval before you read Once Upon a Broken Heart. Do I think you should read Caraval before you read Once Upon a Broken Heart? Yes and no. Like, it's not a big deal if you don't read Caraval before you jump into the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, but you will know one of the characters in that story going into this trilogy. I read this trilogy first, but since I'm reading Caraval now, I think like it's not a big deal. I didn't miss that much. I recommend all of her books, but I'm holding up this one. Then, as I discussed this book earlier, Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This book is following our female main character who has a one-night stand and gets pregnant. We're following her through that entire pregnancy, like through the trimesters, and it's really, like I said, not focused on the romance. It focuses on her relationship with herself, but it also shows you like her friends and her relationship with her friends versus the romance. A book that I read last year that I really enjoyed that I didn't expect to enjoy so much was Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. I think this is a perfect springtime read. It's a YA romance and it's about chess, guys. I didn't expect to like it so much, but I really enjoyed this book. You're following Mallory in this book, who really enjoyed chess as a kid. She was really good at it, but she stops doing it, and you find that out in the story on why she stopped playing chess, but she stops. And she vowed to never play chess again. But then she helps her best friend out and she says, okay, I'll play it for charity. I'll do this one time for charity. And she ends up beating Nolan during this charity tournament, and Nolan is the world champion right now. So I just really enjoyed it, and I didn't expect to like it so much, but I feel like that's like a perfect spring book, and it's just, the cover itself is gorgeous. I also spoke about this book earlier, which is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I talked about the Rebel Blue Ranch series earlier. Cowboy romance feels like an all year round sort of book, but I feel like right now is a good time to read a cowboy romance. In Dead and Dusted, you're following Emmy and Luke. Luke is Emmy's brother's best friend who is off limits. Emmy leaves Meadowlark and she swears that she's never coming back, but of course she ends up back in Meadowlark. And then she kind of has eyes for Luke, and she's like, I've never liked this man in my life. Why do I like him now? And Luke feels the exact same way, but they're off limits to each other. Sticking with that theme, I have Flawless by Elsie Silver, but I really mean any Elsie Silver book in general is like a perfect springtime read. This one's following a bull rider, but any Elsie Silver book is a good springtime read. I could keep going, but I'm going to show you one more book that I think you should read this spring, which is The Jesset Heir by Sarah Hisham. I talk about this book so much. I absolutely love this book. This was my favorite read of 2024, and I'm saying this is a spring book because the next one comes out in the summer, and if you read it now, you'll be prepared for the next book. That's the only reason I'm putting it on this list. It doesn't matter when you read this book. This is an amazing book. It's a fantasy series. It's romantasy, it's fantasy, it's got magic, it's got enemies to lovers. A scorched kingdom is rising and it needs its queen. That's my spring TBR and some spring book recs that I think you should pick up. I'm so excited to go into reading these books. I'm going to finish Sunrise on the Reaping and pick up one of these books that I've just put on my spring TBR. I don't know which one yet. I have an idea, but I don't know which one exactly. What are some books that you have on your spring TBR, or are there any books that are on my spring TBR that you read that you absolutely loved? Let me know. Other than that, I hopefully will see you next time. Bye! Thanks for watching.